Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jackie Fekeci, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Manager here at GuideStar. And I'm excited to welcome all of you to our coaching session. As many of you know, we're hosting this session as a part of the nonprofit Winter Games. And Madeline and Jasmine will explain that a little later during the webinar. So we appreciate all of your support and participation in already making this event a success. Now, before we get started, I wanted to take a moment to go over logistics. Next slide, please. So there might be a slight delay, but I'll dive in. So most importantly, we want to hear from you. Send us any and all questions that you may have. And in order to submit a question via GoToWebinar, you can just look at the control panel off to the side of your screen and you'll see the questions box. So you can just type it in and it's going to send right to us. If you only see the header for questions and not the actual box, you can select the arrow to the left to enable it. We'll be answering your questions throughout the work session, so make sure to keep submitting them as they come to you. And of course, to answer the #1 question that we always receive, yes, the webinar is being recorded and we'll make sure to send it to you in the next day or two. So now let's jump right in and get to know our coaches. So I'm very happy to be joined today by Jasmine Marrow and Madeline Kardos. Jasmine is GuideStar's Director of Nonprofit Strategy and Madeline is our Marketing and Communications Associate. Combined, they both have helped hundreds of nonprofits claim and update their profiles. So I know that you're getting the best training to help you take home the gold and platinum. And with that, I'll turn it over to Madeline to get us started.
Hi there, thanks so much, Jackie. We're actually going to begin with a very quick poll. You guys are going to see it on your screen in just a moment here. All right, we're going to give you about a minute to fill this out. All right. Perfect. So it looks like most of you are excited to earn a seal of transparency, and then following up with that, competing in the nonprofit Winter Games, and then claiming your nonprofit's profile. That is perfect. So we're going to move on right ahead. Sorry about that. We are just getting our slides to move on here. All right. We apologize for that slight delay. So first of all, this is what you're going to learn today. #1, we're going to start at the basics. So if you're new and coming in right now, we're going to start from the very top. What is a nonprofit profile and how to gain access to it? So if you need that information, we're going to cover that first. Then we're going to go over the nonprofit Winter Games, how you can compete in this week's event and next week's event. This week is the ski jump, next week is the relay. Then we're going to have a live demo on how to earn a seal of transparency, since that's what this week's event is based on. So my colleague Jasmine will be leading that portion. And then we're going to break for questions. Do note that we are going to be taking questions throughout the webinar, so please do not be afraid to use that questions box. You know, send us any questions you may have, and we'll get to them when we have time. All right, so we're going to start at the basics. First of all, the Nonprofit Winter Games is a really fun event that we're having. It started on February 5th, and it will go until March 8th. This week's event is the ski jump, and Jasmine will actually tell you more about this later, and we'll show you how to earn a seal of transparency and how to compete in this event. And then next week is the relay. We, of course, will tell you more about that later. So this week and next week are our last 2 events. All right, so starting from the very top here, what is a GuideStar nonprofit profile? It's a report that GuideStar creates by using information from the IRS. So if you're registered as a tax-exempt organization with the IRS, your organization already has a profile on GuideStar, which is really exciting and very convenient. A quick blurb that GuideStar actually is a nonprofit, so we have our own profile on GuideStar. It's a little meta. If you've ever taken the time to read the full 30 pages of a Form 990, then you'll know why we created these profiles. Accounting jargon swarms each page, information can be hard to find, and to make things easier, GuideStar took on the task of digitizing these tax forms and putting them in a highly digestible format, the nonprofit profile. And that's what you guys can see in front of you. This is an example of a platinum profile. All right, so your organization has a profile on GuideStar. How do you gain access to it? It's a fairly easy process. You just want to make sure that you have your organization's employee identification number, employer identification number on hand. Here's the first step. If you don't already have an account with GuideStar, you're going to go ahead and create one by going to www.guidestar.org and clicking the top right-hand button, Create Account. You'll be prompted to fill out a few web forms, and then you'll be on your way. A slight note, you are going to want to use an email address that's associated with your organization. So for example, mine would be Madeline Kardos at GuideStar.org. Okay, if you already have an account with GuideStar, just click Sign In, which is located also on our homepage to the right of Create Account. Next, you're going to click Update Nonprofit Profile, and that's located at the top of the homepage. You can actually find this on any page on our site. Just look at that top banner and click Update Nonprofit Profile. All right, then the next step is you're going to click the blue Get Started Now button. All right, we're almost there. So then that's where you're going to enter your employer identification number, your EIN, and then you're going to click Request Permission. A note on this is to make sure that you include the hyphen in your EIN. That way our system will accept your number. At last, here's the final step. Once you click Request Permission, a web form such as this one will appear on your screen. All you have to do is fill in the required fields such as your name and email address and click Submit Request at the bottom of the page. Our amazing stakeholder support team will approve your request within 1 to 2 business days. And that's it. All right, so I know we went through that pretty quickly, but that is how you gain access to your profile. And then you're probably wondering, what's next? Well, there's a lot that you can do. So if you take a look at your profile, you're going to notice it's only showing basic information, but you can share more by earning a GuideStar seal of transparency. So please note, these seals are not a rating. Each level is a step further in telling your organization's full story, and more importantly, each step is completely free to achieve. It just takes a little bit of your time. So here's a really brief rundown of each seal. Bronze is basic information so that your organization can be found. Silver is financial information so you can increase trust with those viewing your profile. Gold is all about long-term goals and strategies so you can better tell your story. And platinum shows the difference you're making by sharing year-to-year metrics. And of course, Jasmine will give you a more in-depth rundown of what will be required for each of these in her live demo. Okay, to wrap up the basics here, we've talked about what a nonprofit profile is, how to gain access to it, and the different types of information you can add to it. But how does your profile help you? Well, it's actually one of the best marketing tools out there because GuideStar has over 9 million unique visitors to our site, and it doesn't stop there. So GuideStar powers over 200 charitable websites and applications, including Amazon Smile, Facebook, Network for Good, Just Give, and these are just to name a few. You kind of see a little more on the screen here. All of these pretty much, so the GuideStar profiles also power all major US-based donor advised funds as well. So you'll see Fidelity, Schwab, etc. on there. And basically in just a few hours, you can provide up-to-date information to all of these websites in one go. And this is kind of a brief anecdote. I once worked with a man who had spent about 6 months going to 80 different websites trying to change his organization's address. And that was very sad because he could have come to GuideStar first and done all of them in one go. Yep, so actually we are going to now take a brief break and answer some of your questions. So hopefully you type those into the questions box.
Great, thanks, Madeline. So we've had a lot of great questions coming in. What I'm going to kind of focus on is a little bit of questions behind the claiming process, and then there have been a few more coming in about updating, but I will leave those till the end after Jasmine does the demo. So one of the first questions is asking, how do I get listed on these partner sites like Amazon Smile?
That's a good question, and the only thing you need to do is get listed on GuideStar. So if your organization isn't listed, if you can't see your profile already on GuideStar, what you're going to want to do is contact our support team at support@guidestar.org. You can also look at all this information in the GuideStar community, and I can actually send you a link in just a moment to that page as well.
And in general, just to add to that, one of the really great things about your GuideStar profile is that there aren't a ton of extra steps. Once you have completed your GuideStar profile, it's going automatically out to most of these partner sites.
And someone else then asked, will updating the profile description on GuideStar change what's actually shown on Amazon Smile and other partners?
Exactly. Yep. So GuideStar powers all of those partners' information. So once you change it on GuideStar, you will see it on those partner sites.
Wonderful. And later, if you can show us how to opt into those partner sites, some people are asking, why are they not showing up? So just to flag that for you, Jasmine, when you're going through the demo. Another question, that's a great one, is how many people can I add to be a manager of my profile?
That's a really good question. You can add as many managers as you want to your profile. So there is no limit. And we recommend adding as many people as you can if you have multiple people who can contribute to your profile. So for example, the silver seal requires financials, so you can add your accountant. The gold seal requires long-term information, so your strategy team perhaps. We also recommend creating a very general account, such as info@yournonprofit.org, and making that a manager for your profile. That way, if you get locked out of your account, if you can't remember your password, you always have at least one general account that you can use.
Great. And then what email should they use when registering for an account and claiming their profile?
Another good question. I did mention this a little earlier. So basically, if you have an email address associated with your organization, you should definitely use that. It'll help you get approved a whole lot faster. So for example, I would be Madeline Kardos at GuideStar.org versus if I use a Yahoo account, it wouldn't be as quick.
Perfect. And then how much does it cost to claim and update my nonprofit profile?
Absolutely free. Totally free.
My favorite question to answer, of course.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to send the link through on how to get your nonprofit listed on GuideStar. So for all you attendees, just look within your questions box. It should appear. There you go. It should just appear, and you can click that and learn a little bit more about how to get listed.
Perfect. Another question's kind of coming in, Jasmine, again, flagging it for you when you do the demo, asking how can they update email addresses or add a profile manager? So
okay, great.
The rest of the questions, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'll be happy to point to that.
Perfect. And the rest of the questions are pretty seal of transparency specific, so I think I can go ahead and turn it over to you, Jasmine.
Okay, thanks so much. I am excited to talk to you all about, first of all, the Winter Games, and then, of course, how that relates to earning your seals overall. So we'll just start with the Winter Games. As Madeline mentioned, they're February 5th through March 8th, and we have a ton of fun things that we have planned. So let me first just talk to you about the upcoming event that's this week called the Ski Jump. So the idea is that you have from February 19th, yesterday, to the 23rd to jump from one seal level to the next. So if you aren't at anything, you can jump up to bronze. If you are at bronze, you can jump up to silver or gold or platinum, etc. So this is all about helping you to achieve higher seals of transparency and really go for the gold and the platinum. And you can see here that for each of those levels, we will randomly select a winner and provide your organization with a donation. So you have a chance to win up to $500, which is incredibly helpful, and we're just really excited to share with you how that works. So what I'll do is talk to you a bit about just earning a seal of transparency overall, and I'll show you a quick demo so that we can talk about what that looks like and how you'll jump those seals. So let me go on over to the website itself and show you what that looks like. And I'll be sure to hit some of those questions that you mentioned earlier. So, you know, I'll just include that in all of this. So what you're seeing now is sort of the homepage dashboard of what it looks like once you've signed in. So once you have claimed your profile, which Madeline demonstrated, all you need to do is click Update Nonprofit Profile, and I'll just do it again here to show you what that first page looks like. And now I just hit Edit Form and I'm in. So always come here and you can see what level you're at, how much of each section you've completed, and you can jump on the side here in any of these menu items. So in the bronze section, silver section, gold, etc., you can always hit this little drop-down menu and jump to any section. I also recommend just starting from the top and working your way on down. That way it'll be really clear. So I'm going to let this load, and I'll start with just those couple of questions that came through at the very beginning. So one of the questions was, how do you change your email address? So if I go to bronze and I hit this name and contact information area, this is a great place to start. You can also do it just from the summary page itself. So what I'm going to do is you can see here, so it says, who is your primary contact? And you can put it right there. Ours is our own Jackie Fekeci, so that is here in the email address section. I can also show you, if you go to summary, and this is how you might change your physical address. So in that top section, you can just hit this pencil icon here and update any information. So a lot of folks come here for those kinds of quick changes to make sure that their email address is right, their physical address, the ways that they do that information is showing up clearly.
And just to jump in here, the summary page can be thought of as kind of like an admin page. So you can change your main address, take a look at what seal level you're at, and a few more functions, including adding a new manager to your profile, which Jasmine can show you, and donation reporting.
Yeah, that is a great point, Madeline. So let me just talk you through how you might add NPO managers. So once you're here in the summary section, you can click Assign Profile Managers and hit Update. And this is where you can update, and if ever you need to, remove profile managers. Now, as Madeline mentioned, we think it is a great practice to add as many people as possible, which is why you can see that GuideStar itself has a very long list. So because we have folks from all around the organization adding bits and pieces, we like to just make sure that anyone who needs to can always have access, as opposed to kind of gatekeeping it the other way. So let's head on back to the section, and I'll just walk through section by section. So first I will show you the bronze section. So if you go ahead and click on this top part, we can just walk down through each of these, and Madeline, feel free to chime in if you have best practices or little tips and tricks you'd like to share. So a lot of this is really basic information. What's your name? What's your address? Who should we contact? A section that we've added here is who should we contact for your fundraising needs? So our partners are always wanting to make sure that they can give you money easily, and we want to help that happen for you and for them. So that's something important. Madeline, did you have something to add?
Yeah, and you can see all of these new fields by looking on the left-hand side there. There's a little badge that says new next to them, and then each section will also say that it's new. So if this is your first time in our system, or you haven't been in our system for a while, be on the lookout for these new sections.
That's a great point. Yeah, so we have, starting this last year, really worked to make sure that all of our partners are getting from us and from you what they need to see to give you money and to give them better information. So that's what a lot of this is. So we've got, of course, your physical address, your international address, a ton of different addresses, and some of your founding information. So what year were you founded? Do you want to share your letter of determination? This is more of that donation information. So how can we cut the check and where can we send it to? In that section, which has got one of those new badges, you can see that sometimes an organization might want a check sent in a different place. So if I uncheck this, I can fill out an address of another place I might like to have this sent. Some folks that I've worked with are sub-entities of larger national organizations and they'd like the check sent nationally. Some folks just want the check sent directly to the bank or their accountant who handles that information, and that's great to do. If it is the same as all of the rest of your main address, just check this box. You don't have to fill it in twice. So that's important to know. Then next we've got your staff and leadership. And so that's all pretty general information, or the same. One thing that we've added that's new is that if you'd like, you can put a link to their LinkedIn profile so that folks can see that information. We've got space for a co-leader if that's how your organization is set up, and then also space for your board of directors and your senior staff. So that's those pieces. A new section that we've added is your brand and your logo. This is a request from a lot of our partners, including Google and Amazon Smile and PayPal, and folks who want to give you money and make sure that you show up really well. So some of these preferences are around how you might share your logo and what that's going to look like. Make sure that you take a good look at those, and then you've got a little bit of feedback here. So when you upload it, you can see what it's going to look like. If you have an organizational slogan or a tagline, which is kind of one of those quick, pithy lines that you use, feel free to add that here. It's something that's requested a lot, especially for mobile giving. If you don't have one, that's no problem. Just go ahead and click this no tagline section. And the same with a website. It is always requested that we help folks to just guide to your web presence. If you don't have a website but you have a Facebook page, this is a great place to put that. But feel free to just not enter one at all. Anything to add or?
No.
Okay.
My only note is just to remember that the required fields have the red asterisk next to them and the optional ones do not. So don't stress, you're going to see a lot of fields, but not that many are actually required.
That is a great point. And yeah, so throughout, as you're looking through this, make sure that you're just checking to see those red asterisks, and that way you'll know what you need to check on. So for your mission statement, this is another place you want to stay nice and pithy, as short and sweet as you can. Lots of folks have extended, longer mission and vision statements. This is the space where you put the quick one. Then we have a space for programs, and I want to walk you through what the program section looks like. So for each of these, I'm just going to edit one of our existing ones so I can show you what that looks like. You'll put in your program name, a description, pretty short description of what your program looks like, your budget, and your population served. So in the population served section, you'll see that these are not in alphabetical order. These are grouped more or less, right? So male, female, intersex, LGBTQ. So those all have to do around gender identity. Then the next section is around race and ethnicity identity, and it goes on from there. But make sure that you put in at least one target audience. And one thing that we've added this year that folks have asked a lot about is your geographic areas served. So this is where you're going to put in up to 5 spaces where this particular program, not your organization as a whole, but the one program that you're talking about here, for us it's our web program, where they are located. So you'll just start typing in here. So for us, it's the United States, and I can go ahead and write that, USA. I could also do, let's say I am in Alameda County. So you can see that that is here, and I just start typing until I see what I'm looking for. If you don't see what you are looking for, go for kind of the next section up. So it might be that it's a little small, but also please let us know. We are constantly evolving our tools to make sure that they fit you. Madeline, do you have anything to add about this section here?
Yeah, just a note that the required fields here is the name of your program, the target population served, the quick description, and the location. A budget is not required, but if you have one, it's really great context to provide so people can see that for each of your programs. You can also, if you have more than one area, you can list up to 5 locations, which is really helpful. Don't stress, like let's say you serve 20 different counties, go with the larger area and go with a city. And if you still serve more than 5 cities, go with the state. And that's a really good tip for using this section.
Great, thanks so much. So that is how you'll add programs, and just make sure that you, as Madeline mentioned, check out all those asterisks and make sure that you're filling in what's necessary. So keywords is the space where you're going to point to how folks can find you when they are looking in the GuideStar search. So think of it that way. Next, we have NTEE codes, which you can find based off of what you entered in the IRS codes, or you can veer from that. You can enter up to 3. One thing I want to stress here is to save. So let's say you're halfway through and you realize you got to go. The save button is at the very bottom of the page. Go ahead and hit save anytime. I love hitting save. I just always want to make sure that all of my hard work has always been saved. So not gone to waste. So you can hit save at any time. You can also hit publish, and we'll talk a bit about that later. But for now, we'll continue on to silver, and we'll talk through some of the things that you'll see there.
A quick note, and this actually came in, I want to address this question right off the bat. If you had a gold seal and haven't come in for a really long time to update your profile, you're going to want to take a look at the bronze seal, because all those little new additions, those are going to be the fields that you're going to want to double check first off the bat. And then Jasmine will address the rest of them, but this came up multiple times, and I want to say, yes, if you do have a gold seal from a couple of years ago, double check your bronze seal.
Yeah, that is an excellent point. So something that we haven't talked much about yet is that we have shifted over to an annual cadence. So every year, come back, get a new seal of transparency. Right now, we're on the 2017 seal of transparency. We are really excited to very soon release the 2018 seal of transparency, but that means that you need to make sure that some of those new fields that we've added in that have been requested by partners are filled out for you. So if you have a seal of transparency, but those are new and you haven't seen them before, make sure you go check them out. So the silver section is one of those sections that we have updated a bit. So in general, the way that the silver section works is that you can either upload an audited financial form or fill out these questions below. If you don't have an audited financial form, that is totally fine. You don't have to. You can always fill these out. At GuideStar, we choose to do both, actually. And that's a great rule of thumb for you. If that is something that you'd like to do to be even more transparent, we highly recommend it. And all it is us just filling out all of these particular fields, your contributions, your program service revenue, etc. One thing that you'll note that we have added here is that we want to make sure that the information that you're sharing is up to date. So if you are looking at this fiscal year, you want to make sure that this is within the last 2 years. So just go ahead and update this. It won't register as you having completed this section until your dates are within the last 2 years. So if this said 2013, I wouldn't be able to publish or to earn my silver seal of transparency.
A note for the audits, that these have to be true audited financial statements. These can't be your Form 990, and these cannot be a financial review. They do have to be an audit. Sorry, I just didn't want to jump in there and address that before that question popped up.
That is a great point. Thanks so much. And so we also share here your program source, your funding sources, which is totally optional, but it is a great practice to do. And that's more or less, this is one of the short and sweet sections. So if you have, say, your 990 that you filled out, you can fill this out really quickly. If you've got your budget from last year, if you have your audited financial from last year, you can just grab the amounts that are listed there and you'll be able to fill this out in no time. So I'm going to move on to the gold section now.
And while that's loading, a quick tip is if you don't have an audit, please do not stress. Jasmine just said a really great tip was you can manually fill in those fields. So please do not worry if you don't have an audit. We know it's an expensive process. You can just manually fill in those fields.
That is a great point. So now we're on the gold section, and overall the gold section, as Madeline mentioned, is a place where you share your long-term goals and strategies. So there are questions, and they are derived from the charting impact questions, which were developed by Independent Sector and DBBY's Giving Alliance and GuideStar. And so it's the space where we really want you to share what's going on in your organization long term. So one of the questions that sits a bit outside of that is that we got a request for a lot of folks to be able to share a problem overview. So what is it in the world, what problem or opportunity or need are you addressing in your organization, and what are the ways that you talk about that? So this isn't a really long one, but it is kind of helping the reader to orient themselves to your work and what is important to you there. And these next questions are around your goals. So long and short term, what do you exist to accomplish? The way that you can think about this is often written in your theory of change. This is also often written in a ton of board information that you share, a lot of grant information. One rule that we really like to enforce, or not necessarily a rule, but a tip and trick, is to borrow, not invent. So you have written this time and again in a bunch of different places. Feel free to go find that and copy paste. It might be on your website, it might be in a grant application. Go find it. So what you see here is, this is GuideStar's profile, obviously. So this is where we are articulating just a bit around our goals. Another quick note here is that there isn't kind of bold and italics and those sorts of things. So you really want to make those line breaks work for you and separate it out in that way. So you've got your goals, you've got your strategy. So what is it that you plan to use in your arsenal to address these problems? Your capabilities, similar, and indicators. So how will you know that the work that you're doing is going well? So for us, it is things like people using the information that we share and people identifying tools that they can use to make more informed decisions in their giving, those sorts of things. Your progress, how will you know or how far have you come so far and what's next for you? And that's it for gold. Madeline, did you have any tips and tricks you wanted to share?
Yeah, so basically one of the major tips here is to not go too crazy. So you'll notice that there is a character limit of 3,000 characters, but we do not want you to use that entire character limit, and you really shouldn't, because when people are online, they're scanning. There's nothing we can do about that, but they're going through, they're scanning. So what you want to do is make sure you do maybe like 3 to 4 very short paragraphs for each question, and they don't have to be very long. And like Jasmine said earlier, you want to make sure there's that line break in between so that when people are scanning, they can kind of get the first little bit of this sentence, the first bit of that sentence, as you know they'll do.
Great. Yeah, please remember that folks love to skim, and you want to make sure that you're really sharing that. Go ahead.
And just one more note, for each section, you're going to click save. So it's always there at the bottom of each section for bronze, silver, and gold, and that's how you will save your changes for each one. Platinum's a little different, and Jasmine will show you how. Someone had a question about confirm and publish, which we will get to at the end. So that's always your final step, is to publish all these good changes you've been making. But for now, just remember, you just have to click save.
Yeah, great question and great addition. So I want to talk to you briefly about the Platinum section. So Platinum is the space where you share year over year the metrics that you capture about your organization. The way that I like to think about this is, what do you track to know that you're on track? So that can be anything from number of folks you've served to the ways that that information or those goods and services have been used after that. So there's a couple of ways that you can get here. One thing that we're going to share in the handout section is the common results catalog. So we really wanted to be able to give folks some starting space. So we did a lot of research in the sector, and we've also just been growing this document based on information that other folks have shared using our system and adding to the catalog. So it's a living, breathing document where we want you to be able to find the metrics that work for you. We do really encourage you to search and use the Common Results Catalog first, because there's a ton of great information there, and because you want to be able to benchmark against yourselves and your peers over time.
Just to jump in here, you can find the Common Results Catalog in the handout section of your little control panel there. If you click it, you can actually download it straight from there, which is really helpful. You're also going to find another PDF in there which has all of the required fields that you need to earn a seal. So both of those documents are there. Feel free to download them whenever.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can search through this section, and then I'll also show you how to bypass that entirely. So first, I'm going to just show you this keyword search. So let's say I wanted to talk about the number of youth that were served in my program. I might type youth in here and see what made sense. Oh, actually, yeah, coping skills is a great one. Or I might also just type in number of youth and see what that got me. So number of youth service participating. Yeah, so this one looks great. And so as I click that, that is actually just populating right here. So let's say I decide that no, I'm not actually into that one. I just click that X and it's gone. So you can use the keyword search for any of those larger ideas, carbon, etc. You can also use this side panel, and you can use them in connection with one another. So let's say I focus primarily on advocacy work and I focus on animals and advocacy work. Then I'll be able to see what metrics are used by other organizations that fit that criteria. You can always reset the search. You can always search within those more filtered results for what you're looking for. If none of these seem to fit, you can always add a custom metric. We never want you to feel like you shouldn't, but we do, really encourage you to take a look beforehand. So if you can see here, it says can't find a metric, add your own. It's under the your selections. So you'll go ahead and click that, and you'll start to type your metric. And Madeline, I remember you saying that someone had asked specifically about, say, like a radio. Mm-hmm. So what if it was number of listeners? I'm going to type well at some point.
And while Jasmine is typing, I will jump in here and let you know that we do have a common format that you want to stick to when creating these custom metrics. So you can see here, it's pretty linear. It's number of blank who blank, average of blank who blank, percent of, I think you guys get the picture here. But you basically want to be specific. So you don't want to just say like number of children in poverty. That doesn't show what your organization has done. You want number of children in poverty who've been clothed, so it shows how many children you've actually given aid to. You want to apply that to your own metrics. And of course, it doesn't have to be number. It could be average. It could be percent. So, if you only serve, and I think someone asked this, we only serve 40 people, that's not a big deal. You can put percent. And we also have a way where you can present context. So this is extremely important if you say, you can explain, why you only serve 40 and all that.
Yeah, so we definitely, just to add around we only serve 40 people, the number that you serve is great. We want you to feel like you're not in competition with anyone. This is really about kind of benchmarking against yourself over time. So there are a ton of reasons why that number might be low compared to, say, a Red Cross or something like that. And there's zero things that are wrong with that. So always feel free to share that story, even when those numbers are small. So that's just an important point. So as I fill this in, I need to check this box that says, I understand that using a custom metric means that they won't be comparable to others in the field. And that is a fine thing to do, but you do want to make sure that you check that off. Then I'm going to hit this Add a Metric button. And as I click it, you can see that they have provided some suggestions. So just in case you missed them, just in case you were rushing past, and there is something that happens to fit, you can see that here. So what's great about this is that I've typed in radio, and there is a keyword search that says, oh, radio, that's pretty close to media, that's pretty close to audience. Are there things here that might match what you have entered? So if so, go ahead and click one of these and we'll add it in. If no, that doesn't quite fit, I really want to say number of listeners to my radio station, I just go ahead and click use my custom metric, and I click add a metric. So now I am ready to go ahead and fill in some numbers. So I hit continue. And now I'm in this next section, and you can see that unlike some of the other sections, there is no save button at the bottom. These are auto-saving. So now I want to share some specific numbers. So I'll click this Add Details section here. And you'll notice that there is a section to enter my 2017 metrics, 2016, 2015. Of course, you can add a year and share as many as you'd like back to the year 2000. But you want to make sure that at least one of your metrics is sharing from the past year. So similar to how we want to make sure that silver, because time, they're so time-based, the silver section is making sure that you are sharing your fiscal year within the last 2 years. We want to make sure that the metrics that you've shared here are at least one of them is sharing within the past year. So you can add numbers here. These are whole numbers, so you would not say 0.45, but you could say 45 and then talk about the fact that that's a percentage, right? So you'll put numbers in here. You can skip a number if you need to. So let's say I've got numbers for 2017 and 2015. Oh yeah, that is a great point. So let's say in 2013, it was 1,300. What I'm going to put there is 1,300, but without the comma there. As Madeline mentioned, we also provide you space to share some context. So a thing that we say at GuideStar a ton is no numbers without stories, no stories without numbers. So you putting your numbers here is incredibly important. You sharing what these numbers mean and why there might be a huge jump. So 2013, we had over 1,000, and 2015, we had 22. Maybe that's because we massively restructured our entire program and now it serves a different need. Maybe that's because we lost funding and we really want to talk about the fact that it is incredibly important to have funding for this program. All of those things are important to share here. You've got a character limit of 200, so make it count. It's going to be pretty pithy and quick. You also want to, as much as you can, relate those back to a particular program. So you can click here, and this is a drop-down menu of just the programs that you have already entered in the bronze section. If you don't see a program and you've realized you maybe want to add one, you can do that a little later. You can, save this and go back to something else. We also realize that context is key in everything. So graduating seniors means something really different when that is senior citizens, means something really different when those are people of color, means something really different when those are low-income folks, right? So you want to select your target population here. And it's totally optional, but it's a great practice to do. Now, let's say you've done all this, but you're not ready just yet to share. You can click No, Don't Display, and hit save and go back and chat with someone else in your organization. Of course, we'd like to encourage you to hit Yes, Display and share that information. You can also say display, but we don't track this just yet. or we don't track this anymore. So that shows that you're an organization that is record keeping and thinking about this work, but this isn't something that you are currently tracking anymore, and maybe you have a different metric that you like to use. So you'd hit save there. And the other thing that you'll notice is that now you've got a little dashboard of all that you've entered and what your notes look like, and whether or not you are displaying any of them.
And what is the order for this, Jasmine?
Okay, that's a great question. So the order that you enter these in when you are in your previous section is the order they will display on. If the order is important to you, you want to make sure that you are thinking about that as you enter them here in the Your Sections area. So if I've just realized that actually I want number of teachers first, I might want to go ahead and delete the one previous and put it next. So make sure that that's something that you're thinking about as you go through. In the future, we'd love to be able to have you able to rearrange them, and it's something that we hear you loud and clear on. But for right now, make sure that you are thinking through that before you enter them here so that you don't have to delete all of this to be able to move them around.
And just know, and if you're a little overwhelmed with this section, please don't be. The only thing that's required is one metric from within the past 2 years. So if you only have one metric, please don't worry about it. However, we recommend that you do your top 3 to 5 metrics and give each of those 3 to 5 years worth of data. That way you have a breadth of data and a depth of data. This will show people trends. And of course, you can better explain your own numbers by providing more numbers. So please be sure to take a look at your top 3 to 5 metrics. You can find these in an annual report. That's usually a great place to look for a lot of information, actually. And your website. A lot of people have this on their website, or perhaps a pamphlet that you hand out to folks. Any kind of external facing, anything external facing will usually contain some of these numbers. So that's a great first place to look.
That is excellent. Thank you so much. So now let's talk about how you might publish and what confirm and publish would look like. So that's a lot of what came up. And I'll go into some of these auxiliary sections in just a minute too, but I want to make sure that I get to that. So there are a couple of ways that you can publish. So anytime I make changes, there is a footer that says you have unpublished changes, and I can hit this red button that says publish changes now. I can also see a publish in each section that I'm in. So if I am in the bronze section, and give it a second to load, you can see here there's save, which you want to make sure that you are always hitting. And then also says, are you ready to publish those changes? And you can publish. So I'm going to hit that. And then I am taken to the confirm and publish page. So what this section is a space for you to attest that what you've shared is true, a space for you to better understand our terms and conditions, those sorts of things. So I would click each of these. I certify that these required fields are accurate. This organization has given me, Jasmine, permission to update this profile. And I accept the terms of use. And of course, there's a link to the terms of use, and please feel free to take a look at that. We really encourage you to. A question that we got earlier was about opting into partner sites, and what does it look like, and what does it mean to give someone else permission? So this is a great place to talk about that. So once you have talked about the programs and terms, there are options for sharing. There are 2. One is if you want donors to be able to easily give to your organization. Pro tip, you do. You want folks to be able to easily give you money. So that is our partners like Network for Good, like Just Give, like Amazon Smile. So that means when your name pops up on their website, that folks are able to donate through that channel to you. So all you do is hit this check mark, and that enables you to be connected to our entire network of donation partners. And it's as simple as that. The next checkbox is for a donation button. So on the GuideStar website, someone would be able to hit the donate button and donate money directly to you. That is powered by Kimbia, and Kimbia does take an admin processing fee, but GuideStar itself does not. So once you have checked all of these boxes, these guys are optional, but I would highly recommend that you do opt into both of these. Then you would hit finish and publish, and you are on your way.
If you want to make sure that you have a seal, you can first of all look at your own profile on GuideStar, and you'll see the seal pop up on the left-hand side, which Jasmine will actually show you in just a moment. And you can also, if you click Update Nonprofit Profile, you can see it right on that homepage, that kind of dashboard area. It'll be right next to your organization name. So, and I know we got this question a few times, how do I know? You can see it pop up there, and you can also see it down below under your profile is at the, and then it will show you what level it's at.
Yeah, so up here, just in case you guys aren't seeing my mouse, right next to GuideStar USA, you can see it. You can also see it right here. You can click View Public Profile, and you'll be able to see that in just a second as well. Here is your seal of transparency here. So that is all we have time for today. So that is where I'll stop for those. Those are all how you earn the seals of transparency and how you jump seals for the ski jump.
And we're well aware there are a ton of questions we may not be able to answer because they're very specific to you, and we will try our best to answer them after this webinar with a follow-up email.
Great. So the next Winter Games game I want to share with you, it's the next opportunity for you to win a prize for your organization, is the relay. So that is one of our social media campaigns. What you want to do is, if you have not already, claim your profile. After that, you want to tag another organization and share a post on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. And we have text on our website that says what you want to enter there. You tag another organization, and then you're automatically entered to win.
I just sent that link through our little chat box, so if you want to click that, it will take you straight to our webpage, with all of the rules and eligibility requirements.
Great. So here's just another look at where you will find your seal of transparency, and you want to make sure that it is saying loud and proud that you are at whatever seal that you were aiming for, and that you've earned the 2017 seal if you so desire. All right. So I want to take some time here for questions.
Fantastic. Thank you both so much. So you really did go through answering a ton of the questions while you were doing the demo. Just a few more that we saw multiple times or come in after you answered them is around eligibility for the nonprofit Winter Games, and specifically, how would I move up more than one seal level for the ski jump? So I'll go ahead and answer that. Madeline sent out the link. You can go there to see the official rules and then also eligibility for the remaining 2 events, and then participate for the ski jump throughout this week. It ends Friday at almost midnight Eastern time, and then the next week's the relay, hashtag NPO Winter Games. If you're posting that and tagging another organization between next Monday and Friday, you will be entered to win. So moving on to kind of bronze section, there were a lot of questions around NTE codes and keywords. So what do they put in to make sure they're actually searchable, Jasmine?
That is a great question. So for your keywords, you want to think about the broad ways that you describe your program to other folks. So for example, at GuideStar, we say philanthropy because we power philanthropy, we say data, those kinds of things. So if you do a shelter for animals, those kinds of things, you want it to be those big, broad categories. You want to put in maybe around 5 or so, and you separate them by a comma. And that just helps to support our search algorithm and the search algorithm of others, of our partners who use GuideStar information. The second piece is the NTEE code. So There are big, broad categories, and those are letters. So animals, education, philanthropy, etc. And then there's some finer sections there, and there's a drop down, and in the drop down, it will always have a description of what that means. The pro tip is that you cannot be wrong. It is your choice. There is no legal mandate. So I recommend that you put more rather than less so that you're able to be found more easily. But other than that, you put in what you most identify your organization as. So let's say you're an animal advocacy organization and you do funding of other animal organizations. You could put in animal rights, you could put in one around philanthropy, and you could put in one around animal sheltering.
And do not forget about the subcode. Each NTE code will ask you to put in a subcode. This is just a more specific categorization for the previous code that you picked. Don't forget them. There are so many. Basically our system yells at you if you forget to put it. So spare yourself a yelling and make sure you fill in those subcodes.
Perfect. Another question that came out in around audited financial statements in Silver is, do you need to fill in the financial information if you just upload an audited statement?
I'll actually take this one. You don't have to, but we recommend it. That way, those who are searching our site for free are able to see your financials as well. That information isn't readily available to all of our free subscribers. That's only to those who are on a GuideStar Premium or Pro subscription. So yes, if you have time, please fill them in, but it is not necessary. If you just upload an audit, that will be enough.
Perfect. And then that's also good insight for those who are too small to have an audited financial statement. You can simply go through and fill in the financial information on your own. And then is Silver for calendar year or fiscal year?
Great question. So it is for your fiscal year. And so that's why there's a section there where you indicate your fiscal year so that folks can have an understanding of what those numbers are referring to.
Perfect. And then there were a couple questions around the gold section and where can they find more information on charting impact or best practices on how to fill it out?
That is a great question, and we will provide a link to the charting impact questions. If we don't pop it in here, then we can absolutely make sure to add that in our follow-up email. But there is a section on GuideStar that walks you through all 5 questions and what they mean. You can also search for other examples on GuideStar. If you just look for gold organizations, then you can see some of those.
And just to pop in here, in that follow-up email, you will also get the recording of today's event as well as the slides.
Perfect. And then a platinum question that came in is, should I put in current metrics over the past year or 6 months for platinum if I do not have a full year under my belt?
No, is the short answer. So the way that this works is that 2018 is not yet even available for you to put metrics in. So you can only look backward over this year. So what you can say is, so let's say you started in 2017 and you know that that's not a full year, like you haven't been going for a full year to date. You can say how many folks you served in 2017 or whatever those metrics are. And in your context section, make sure that you note that. But that's the way that I would handle that. So unless you have just started in January or February of 2018, then other than that, you should be fine. You can always just share your 2017 metrics and talk about the fact that they're low because you're brand new, which is a wonderful story to tell.
Perfect. And the final question is, we're a new nonprofit and we're just sort of getting off the ground. Should we wait to fill out our profile?
No, absolutely not. So the story of your program and your vision and anything that you can share is wonderful to share. So feel free to do that. Some of those things you won't be able to share with a lot of detail just yet. So say your silver section, you might need to wait on that, but absolutely earn bronze and earn as much as you can.
Fantastic. All right, and then Madeline, just one question for you. If you had one point you needed to drive home, what would it be?
My one point is to gain access to your profile. That is the very first step, and that's really what you should do immediately after this webinar, is make sure that you have access and that everyone in your organization who needs access has access. That way you are prepared to start filling it in.
Wonderful. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope to see you all soon, and actually next up, you can even join us tomorrow for a webinar with CrowdRise that kind of covers the top 10 things nonprofits should do this year. Or you can join us on March 20th, where we're doing a webinar with Fidelity Charitable on reaching more donors through DAFs, or donor advised funds. And again on March 26th, where we're doing a webinar on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how this information really helps inform decisions and practices. And finally, as Jasmine and Madeline mentioned, make sure to keep an eye out over the next few weeks for the release of the 2018 seals. So thank you again, and we hope to see you all soon.